First up on the list is a monster that showed up at the final few duels of Arc 5, and shows that the staff of the show just wanted to get on their lunch break a little bit quicker. Performapal Odd Eyes Minitaurus is a lackluster level 4 Pendulum who, in the Pendulum Zone, can make a Performapal or Odd Eyes monster declaring an attack gain 100 attack. One whole biggin. A 100 whole attack. Woo! Even more so is his monster effect to weaken monsters that an Odd Eyes or Performapal attacks by 100 for each Performapal and Odd Eyes you control. Yeah, needless to say, this is a ridiculously lacking monster, especially compared to the over-end of the show Odd Eyes Pendulums like Synchron and Dissolver. At the least, those two benefit from fusion and synchro plays and all that sort of thing. This is the laziest and outright most useless kind of attack manipulation. Its monster effect is worse than Psychic Commander, and its pendulum effect might as well be Urban Demise, for crying out loud. I mean, at least it's simple. It's not a puzzle to solve on why this card is bad, it's more of a card you show to new players and tell them why it's bad, and it's a whole learning experience. Kinda like how we all thought life points were the most important thing in the world when we were kids, so we played Hinotama to hit your opponent, and we played red medicine and blue medicine and all that to make sure we were all healthy. This is a teaching moment, this Minotaur is, and one as valuable as the phrase, never run Diane Keto. Ever wanted to witness what would happen if the legendary Six Samurais Mizuho and Shinai went to the circus and became a pair of unbearable jokers and lost any sort of sense of combo potential or power? Nope. Well, I'm sorry to say that that's just the reality we live in. Here's PERFORMAGE Fire Dancer and PERFORMAGE Water Dancer. Both are pendulum spellcasters of fire and water attributes, and are meant to combo with one another as a 2 to 6 scale. Fire Dancer can give a monster piercing powers on the field as a scale, while weakening the monster that destroyed him by 500 attack as a monster on the field. As for Water Dancer, it can switch attack position monsters to defense and does the exact same thing when destroyed by battle on field. Yeah. Performages outside of Hat Tricker, Trick Clown, Damage Juggler, and then Flame Mascot are typically hit or miss, but these two definitely failed any sense of circus play. I get it, one switches and the other does piercing, but this would be an okay effect on a singular card, let alone needing both of them in the scale. Now, scales are pretty non-restrictive at least, but there are so many pendulums now that you can get any scale you want, including, I don't know, 0 and 13? Maybe in the days of Time Gazer and Stargazer being the only pendulums. Sure, these could be used in addition to them so that people could pendulum summon more consistently. Now, however, there is just no reason to worry about the piercing, and piercing helping lads over here. Hey look, another familiar set of monsters! How you been, you shattered bad luck bringers? Mirror Imagines are the deck of Isaac from who cares, and in general just amazingly lacking in gimmicks. The most they have is making the boss of the deck Catadioptricker, Catadioptricker, Catadioptricker. Close enough for me. And boosting its stats via a spell that cannot even properly be coded to Percy. Additional mirror level 7, to summon more and more level 7s that give Kata the buffs and the buffs to make it bigger. That's literally the entire point of the deck. It just has a lot of cards on the field to try and make one card really, really big and have a very large number. That's all. It's boring and bad, not even fun to play because the only combo that exists is Pendulum Summoning to boost attack, and to lose the game to any destruction whatsoever. Don't play Mirror Imagines, guys. It's bad and it's just not fun. Don't you guys want to have fun? Hey look, a Manga DD card! Yay! So, to clarify for anyone who's never read the Arc 5 manga, God bless your soul, Reiji doesn't really have the same standards of DDD in the Arc 5 manga as his anime self. The anime version was focused on the extra deck to the point of being bloated, while all manga forms are main deck focused. Yeah, so no fusion, Xyz, or synchro gimmicks, so there goes the really neat flavor of Reiji's deck entirely. Who doesn't want to be able to basically just summon Sophia every single turn with DDD? Just put in a ritual. You'll have fun, don't worry about it. Rather, his build in the manga is focused on various main deck bosses, among other things. You know, like his structure decks that come out in the States and they're all bad. One of those is DD Scale Survivor, A Scale 9 normal pendulum that has weak stats and can, once per turn, during the opponent's turn, make your opponent's scale 0. So effectively, they can't pendulum summon that turn. I mean, sure, you can catch an opponent off guard for a pendulum summon once and only for that turn, but even then it doesn't do anything else. It has like a 40% chance of stopping a pendulum summon on your opponent's turn, assuming they have both scales out to begin with. And you know what that means if your turn starts and your opponent has their scales set? They probably already pendulum summoned, so there's nothing you can even do. This card only works under the exact idea that your opponent has their scales, did not pendulum summon, played both scales with no intention to pendulum summon, they want to pendulum summon on the next turn, and you draw this card. Let's also include the factor that your opponent would have to be playing a deck that can't easily move around their pendulums from the scale to the field, or the extra deck, or your hand, which is really not that much to ask for anymore. No thanks, seems like a pretty wide decision tree with almost no upside given how much work it's put into it. Continuing the Arc 5 manga for a little bit more obvious jank. For you see, DDD's curse also affected FRIGHTFUR for some of their cards given Sora had like, what, 3 different fusions? As well, his deck was based more with pendulums and the like. Yes, it gave us Angel, Cotton Eater, and Daredevil alongside Night Mary. But it also gave us some pretty horrid stuff in the later half. One of those being FRIGHTFUR Bone Diver. Sick name though, I like it. It could make for a metal band. Bone Diver is a Scale 9 that has 500 attack and 1100 defense, and has no pendulum effect. As a monster though, its only effect is that it doubles your life points if it's destroyed while you have 2,000 life points or less. Ah, so life point recovery that's about as situational as Lifestream Dragon. Alrighty then. Other than that, it's just kind of boring to be honest. A shame given this is Sora we speak of. The character everyone thought was a girl until he showed that he can make weird faces, which only male Yu-Gi-Oh characters like Merrick, Sartorius, Vector can do, I guess. That's all it took for people to realize Sora wasn't a chick, apparently. Our final pendulum from the Arc 5 manga, finally, thank God, is used by Eve, the main antagonist of the whole thing. As for the monster, it's honestly only a one-time deal that was used because Eve had only 2 plans in her duel with Yuya. Make her triple level 10 reference threats, including a Time Lord Synchro, or make God, aka Genesis Omega Dragon, aka everything is just named God at this point, it doesn't even have an effect anymore. That monster was Nova Portal! Nova Portal is a normal pendulum who is scale 12, and only works with another copy of itself in the pendulum scale. Wait, let's talk about that for a second. Using the same scale in both zones? Not to mention it has to be the same monster? That's already awful and inconsistent, so it would have to be a ridiculous effect to be worth it. It's on this list, so I'll give you one guess as to if it is or not. No points for getting it right. The effect is if the opponent uses a monster effect, destroy both portals in the zones, negate the activation, and end the turn. Well, the effect isn't too bad, it straight up ends the turn. But it's the same idea as Anime's Arc here. It just won't happen. It's mandatory as well, so imagine getting pendulums and all that set up, and getting combos off as far without monster effects as you can, then just using an effect, Nova Portal's trigger, you play Ghost Ogre. It can't destroy both the copies, so the effect whiffs. Continue as normal. You can also do this with any sort of back row removal, making this a pretty weak card overall. Let's also consider the fact that if we count out the end your opponent's turn thing, it's Divine Wrath. You just go neg 2 to destroy an opponent's monster, basically. But it's a pendulum for whatever reason. I don't understand. This is certainly no Mystic Mine, am I right, TCG players? I like the idea of a WCQ being won by Chain Burn, because that's gonna happen. Wave Motion Cannon is $20 for a moderate play common from Magician's Force. The Yu-Gi-Oh! Market has gone into shambles! Hey look, Yu-Gi's original Ace Monster. Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon has had its spotlights for the ease of the set on the scale, letting it die value its effect, and search as well as the occasional use on field for doubling damage. However, in the anime, it does not have that effect. It only has the reducing battle damage effect in the scale. Even the monster effect is worse, as he can only do double damage when battling a level 5 or higher monster. I'll be entirely honest with you. This is not the 4th worst pendulum in the history of the anime or the manga. It's only this high because for an ace monster, this is pathetic. Literal vanilla monsters have more support and love thrown their way than this thing. Dark Magician gets like 4,000 spells and trap spells around him. Neos gets an entire archetype of space dudes. Stardust gets like 20 evolved forms. Utopia ups that number to like 1 billion other Utopias. And Decode Talker is at least a part of an archetype that has specific support cards and other cards in his place even this early into Reigns. What does Odd Eyes get? A lame effect and some circus friends to make the pain go away, but it only gets deeper and harder to fill with joy when surrounded by, well, this abomination. It's not the worst, it's just bad and disappointing. I'm not mad at you, Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon, you could have done so much. Oh, hey, look, another card who's useful in real life who originated as absolute dog crap. Supreme King Dragon Darkworm, aka that Dragon Shrine / Dragon's Ravine target to combo with Destrudo, or can be used in generic Pendulum sets. This handy monster is given free use for the gates to be searched, especially in today's meta. However, in the anime, it can negate an attack on a Supreme King monster in the scales, and it can negate an attack on a Supreme King monster on the field. That's all it does. Needless to say, this is a horrid monster in the anime. Just like Zark was such a horrid antagonist, giving this master plan, was sitting on a big dragon for 12 plus turns and threw multiple duelists. It negates attacks. That is it. It's a Scrap Iron Scarecrow on legs, but only works within Supreme Kings. Oh lord, the meta would change if this were real. If only because, well, the real life one we know today wouldn't exist, and a few decks would just sort of die. Like, what are we at, the 7th Rise of Infernities? Actually, that makes me want it to be real. Let Infernities die, please! You can't just limit every card they have and then let them not die. Please. Remember these guys from Worst Anime Archetypes? Well, they're back with absolutely nothing interesting to show for it. Pendulum statues are nothing. They are not even a real archetype. Outside of the monster effects, they are way too situational to be taken seriously. They give you minor boosts on par with the likes of Beast Fangs and Power of Kaishin, which are Legend of the Blue Eyes White Dragon equipped spells, first set, that's the reference we're going for, that don't matter in the grand scheme, and were merely a plot device for Reiji to give people scales. Which, keep in mind, not everyone in the show had full scales at times. That's right, given the number of tag duels in the tournament, it's a safe assumption that each one other than Yuma was given a Pendulum statue, meaning they won't be able to use them out of the gate unless they win one for the right opposite scale, or get in a tag duel and pray your partner had the right scale. Even if you don't want to count how they were implemented in the anime, then let me just summarize that they are bad. Especially, basically every single monster is the exact same except for a singular word between them, and nothing here works well. Just play literally any other Pendulums. Number 1 is a monster shown before on a previous list, was nothing more than a Deus Ex Machina for Yuya to use against Eve, and is impossible to bring out without proper and very dubious setup. Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon is the definition of a big boss effect held back by needing to style. You get to pay half your life points to shuffle all other cards on the field and in the graveyards into the decks, and this card has attack and defense equal to the opponent's life points. So you win automatically, right? Well, downside is you have to sacrifice the OG, as in the actual version, no spin-offs, of Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, Clear Wing Synchro Dragon, and Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon to summon it. I repeat, it cannot be normal summoned or set like Cephylon could be to bypass Infinite Light. Few comments in the Worst Boss Monsters video tried to argue that you could just normal summon it, given I'm assuming the copy they see in the video doesn't mention a cannot be normal summoned or set clause. However, I do have a point to make on that sort of thing. The proxy used for Revolution has the effect translated from the manga, that is from the Wikia, on its text, and is not an official proxy. As we surely should know, the manga does not have problem-solving card text of any way, and conditions to fit the main effects on a splash page and word bubbles. As such, no, you cannot use Clear Wing Fast Dragon or Supreme King Dragon Dark Rebellion for the summon. It must specifically be the OG U-Boy Dragons you need to tribute for him. Admittedly, you can lessen this process slightly thanks to Fusion Tag making a monster count as Starving Venom, or, I don't know, Prisma if you're feeling spicy, but that does not excuse the pain in making Clear Wing and Dark Rebellion, as well as making materials for links to make room for them. It doesn't matter how good it is if it just refuses to be summoned under any circumstances. The worst Pendulum is Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon, purely because it simply will never exist on the field.